Uh, man, it's such a shock to me that I'm actually able to stream from here on a Saturday. Who would have guessed that would ever happen again? Uh, all I can say is I certainly got a payoff for taking my lumps on. I believe that was Monday of last week. So this is one benefit from that thing that appeared to have no benefits when it happened. No, it's been a very busy week for me. I guess we could start it off with mentioning that one of the recurring themes I've noticed with interviews and specifically with places that try to frame themselves as wanting you, kind of like being curious about if you're going to be a good employee for them. Do they actually think you should be someone that they hire? I've noticed a lot of those places tend to be stores or businesses that are what I would call far away. So, like 40 miles, 50 miles, just some long drive that's like an hour plus long to get over there. That's been a thing I've noticed. And I always say that the reason I'm reluctant to take a job where, it's like bigger than maybe a 30-minute drive is because a lot of, at least for me anyway, I think when someone starts working somewhere, they're trying to make a favorable impression upon the people that are or have chosen to hire them. And I'm always worried that if the business is, let's say, an hour away from me, I could get up 2 hours ahead of when my schedule is even supposed to begin. And in spite of leaving with the intent of being early, in spite of leaving at a time that really should guarantee that I'm early or at least on time, because of some unforeseen circumstance like traffic, um, I could end up being you couldn't make it in time. Because like I said, I know these places are unforgiving to an absurd level too. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit that nothing surprised me more relating to jobs until that manager at that restaurant I worked for told me on my first day that if you don't improve by next time, we're gonna let you go. I was shocked because it's like they put up this sign. I kept saying I was gonna drive over there and see if they still have that sign there. I'm pretty confident that there is this unrealistic fantasy, which is a push for perfection. And if you are not able to perform to the manner in which they would like, they will throw you away. They'll just they'll lash out. Why aren't you able to do this? Why didn't you do this? I mean, that's just what they are. But it's even worse when you consider that they do a good job of like camouflaging the fact that they're this. They might have trouble with that. No, I get it. But after a while, we hope that you're able to. They're really good at that sweet talk, right? Making you feel good, making it seem like they just want what's best for you, and they believe if they give you a chance, things can get better and not be as awful. But no, I know that that's not them. They're a bunch of liars, scammers, tricksters. This guy said some of these people act so antagonistic when they hire you. You almost would think that they're I don't even know. They're like practicing their acting lessons. Like they're trying to see if they can launch an acting career by hiring people acting really nice before they hire them and then just going complete cold turkey after the person gets, through the door or whatever. Like it gets actually attired by them. Then suddenly, everything must be done in this specific way, this fast, this quick. Um So yeah, this was another one of those types of weeks. I on Wednesday had a pretty insane task where last Friday I had applied to 5 positions within this company. It's a restaurant, and heard nothing back, right? So I said, okay, let's do something extreme. Let's do something radical. Let's do something completely ridiculous by any metric of like, wow, we really had to do that just to even hear anything back. So after applying for 5 places on, I believe Friday, yeah. On Tuesday, I applied for another 25 places with that same company. So all in total, I applied to 30 positions within a few days of each other. And they started responding to me, and I ended up having 3 interviews scheduled on one day, all from different, I guess, versions of the same restaurant. So this franchise or whatever, and they are all within 40, 50, 60 miles of where I live. They're pretty far apart from each other, and they're pretty far apart from me. So the first one was at 12 o'clock. I get up at 10 in the morning. I drive over there. I don't use the freeway because I don't really like the freeways in the state that much. I feel like you're on a loop de loop every time you use them. But I go over there and I speak to the manager. And to my surprise, because as I'm talking to the manager, I'm kind of like, making my pitch. I say, hey, I'm available whenever you guys need me. I don't have any other positions I'm doing right now. So, this would be it for me. Just let me know in advance, et cetera, et cetera. And he decides to go back into the building and give me this checklist paper. He's like, all right, we're going to hire you. And I was like, oh, like just because it surprised me. And he starts explaining to me what to do to get hired. And I've actually now done all of it. It was like 2 or 3 different steps, but he seemingly hired me. So uh after going to that one, because I was so tempted to say, all right, mission accomplished, somewhere wants me. That's it. Because it's normally not a thing that when I go to one of these, the managers outright like, all right, we're gonna go with you. That's a extremely rare. I really can't think of any other time where that's happened. So after, because I always like to just make sure I have a few options, or I don't like to get too confident of something, even if I'm told one thing. Um, because the process does take a few days when they go and look through stuff or whatever. I decide to go to this other one that was scheduled at 2 o'clock, and because again these places are so far away from each other, it requires me to use the freeway. So I get on the freeway, I get over there. As I'm driving there, I see I don't know how, because sometimes I'm on my phone, whatever, like you get to a stoplight's long, I might pull up my phone just to see what's going on with either the news or just whatever like stuff has happened. I get an email, and the email is from the same place I'm driving to, and it says, "Thank you for your interest in this position. We have reviewed your application. We've decided to not move forward with you." Da, 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 da. I'm like, okay, that's really weird. So did they invite me for an interview just to decline me? Because I figured I probably applied to 2 or 3 different positions at that place. So I go in for the interview. It was a man that was supposed to speak to me. This little lady comes out and talks to me instead. Um, and she mentions that they have over 100 people who have applied for positions with their specific um company, not company, with their specific restaurant or their specific branch or whatever. And I said, after hearing that, kind of like with a smile, I was like, "Oh man, I feel like I should just give up." And she's like, "Oh, don't give up." But sure enough, after I left from there, I received this is like 2 days ago. I received an email yesterday from again that same one where they said, "Thanks for applying, but we've decided to move for another." So it was just a big waste of time, that second one. And I thought that was crazy how the guy at the first place was like so receptive to me, to where I got offered a job, which shocked me because that never happens during interviews. I pledge that to you. That's a extreme. Oh yeah, we have all these people applying. It's just like a little subtle way of saying don't even bother. So yeah, I wasn't surprised that that one turned out the way it did. These people are always playing with somebody. Every day, man. They are always looking for a way to just mess with someone. Oh, you want to work for us? No problem. You just have to hope that you're the person we pick out of 100 plus. I'll never forget when I went to the interview with that bakery. This was about 3 years ago. When I heard that trash, I said, "Yeah, this is not going to go anywhere." But they love doing that. They love like mentioning just how many options they have. And I don't know, it always makes me just kind of feel like I shouldn't even bother. I would like if I knew that they it was going to be that way, I would have just taken the one guy that said you're hired and then just not even bothered going to the other ones. But I didn't want to be like a complete jerk and just blow everybody else off um, because of like what one person offered or said. So yeah, they're in some kind of review process right now, and then I'll be able to figure out what's going on after that. I was also gonna say that orientation I went to, there were some things said there that really upset me, and I was so fascinated by the fact that after I left from there, I just heard nothing back. Like no one, because I wasn't interested after the things that were said. So like they said things that made me not receptive to working for them. And I said, that's really crazy how I don't even what's a good way of putting it? It's nuts to me that I went to this excited, well, semi-excited, whatever. And by the end of it, I'm just like, okay, I don't think I want this anymore. And so after that happened, I didn't hear anything back from the people that from like just any of the employees. Then all of a sudden they send me a schedule for next week, and the guy starts trying to call me yesterday from multiple numbers. It was I don't know, I just thought that was interesting how like they're so passive that you could just not say anything to them for an entire week and they wouldn't even notice. Like everything is, oh yeah, we want people. Oh, we apparently hired you. Well, you better contact us because if you don't, you won't hear anything back. No, I really just kind of got sick of a lot of this stuff. I mean, you see some of these managers and they are so passive. They're like constantly looking for ways to just say, maybe I'll hire this person, but maybe I won't. Maybe I'll you know, put you up for a position, but maybe I won't. And then if they hire you, if you all you have to do to like not take the job is just don't say anything because they're probably not going to reach out to you. Which to me is one of the craziest things because it's like why go out of your way to tell someone that and then just not have. But I mean, at this point, I'm not even surprised because we saw it happen in April with that lady that interviewed me twice, had me fill all that paperwork, and then was like, "Thanks, but no thanks." I was pissed. Like I don't even normally get that upset over this employer stuff because I know it's all just a bunch of hoopla anyway. But that had me enraged. I said, "This is insane." They always know how to just do ridiculous stuff. Like I've never heard of someone going to an interview or going to multiple interviews, being told they've been hired, and then filling out paperwork just for the place to be like, yeah, we're not even going to bother actually starting anything. Just, I'm telling you that after that, I'm not surprised by anything anymore because it's all that same like nonsense of playing games and no one's serious. It's just lies. So yeah, it's not some big shock to me. It might have been a few years ago, but not anymore. Because the depravity has sunk in. Every screwed up thing they can do, it seems they've already pulled out. I mean, it wasn't even 2 years ago where the idea of being hired by somewhere was exciting to me, and now it's just kind of like whatever. Because I know they can get rid of you after a few weeks anyway, or a few days, or barely give you any hours. So like, there's a whole bunch of other ways that where even if you get a job, it still doesn't matter. It's just a temporary, change of the status quo. I'm not kidding. After that thing happened at that retailer, I really did just become convinced that you can perform because I've always said when you look at yourself and you genuinely believe you tried as hard as you could, there was nothing else you could have done. It's really hard to feel as if you did something wrong. It's like they tell you to go up in this stupid store and take people's orders, fill out whatever the little coupons they have, etc. And sometimes they're just crazy customers. There are people who are angry, who give you something to do that's kind of nuts. Like they want you to go through all of their coupons for them to see which ones work and which ones don't. Just again, stuff that is designed on purpose to be as non what's a good way of putting it? Um, to possibly create situations that are not ideal. I'll put it that way. And in spite of this, you keep your calm when people are talking nasty to you and they have ridiculous requests, you still try to fulfill them. Just at every turn, you're bending over backwards for these bastards. And the only thing you seem to get out of it are some reviews on some site where they talk trash and coworkers that, tell you to do this, that, or the other. But then, even if you do it, people are still upset for whatever reason. So that's why I said I can't look at my role in that particular job and feel like, oh man, if I had just because again, people they're upset over everything. I blame the management if they're so quick to abandon someone on the premise that, it's this person and not the fact that we literally let any lunatic come into this store, including ones that rob us in broad daylight. I don't have time for them. Like they're not dealing in reality when they're so convinced that if we just fire this person, things will magically improve. There's a lot of fantasy going around. But that's why I said I don't take it seriously. Telling you, man, this stuff is crazy. Just the way I made that joke as I'm living in the twilight zone. It really does feel that way. Like when I see the way that people act, some of the things they do, um, some of the behaviors they engage in, the fact that you'll have a place that will sit here with the help wanted sign. Please, someone apply. Please, someone start working for us. Please, someone come in. Please, someone give us a shot. Please, someone give us aid. Please, we need someone. Please, we have all these benefits. Please work these crazy hours. Please deal with these crappy customers. I like it's nuts to me that they can put up a sign like that, begging and begging and begging for someone to assist them, and then not even a month later, they're telling you can get out of here. We don't like your conduct. We don't like that you as a person who's never done this before struggle with doing it. We don't appreciate that. We think you should just be perfect at this thing that you told us before we hired you that you know how to do. Man, I remember when I was working at that restaurant and I was behind the I guess in the kitchen. I was just thinking like they have all these different toppings and I said there's no way I can memorize. But see, back then I wasn't as open to the idea that this job stuff is really just a stall for time and like the sense of when when you get one after such a long time you try to stay on, you really try as hard as you can to impress the manager, do what they want, etc. Now for me it's just kind of like whatever, like okay, you'll hire me for a few days, few weeks, and then I'm out. It doesn't mean I purposely try to like mess something up, and I still believe I'm giving effort. It's just I'm not going to drive myself crazy attempting to appease these people who can't be pleased no matter what you do. I mean, I saw from the fact that when I went to that restaurant 2 years ago and they had me cutting stuff up and filling things, and like even the manager admitted that I was much quicker after he made his threat than before. But it's like the same bastard fired me less than 2 weeks later, so it still didn't make a difference. That's why I said I'm not this whole thing of like overexerting yourself when you work on these places, that's finished. I'm not breaking my back, cutting up my fingers, or doing any of the other stuff to appease them because they are unappeasable. No, Wednesday I was swamped. I left at 10 in the morning. I didn't get back until 4. I think I might have like laid down and just kind of filled some stuff all over the computer. I did the thing that the manager told me to do. And then after that, I just passed out. Woke up about 2 hours later and it was I'm not normally ever that tired, but that day did it. It was just so much stuff. I think I must have been driving for about 4 hours. Like that really did feel like a work shift with with minus the pay. Drive over here, drive over there. Because they're all far away from each other. Well, actually, the second and third one were within the same area, but the problem was that I had scheduled it 2 hours apart from each other. Just keep making sure I had enough time to get to each one. And I was just so tired by the end of that second one's trip that I just went home. So that was the only one I didn't go to. So I'm sure somebody will say if I had just gone to that magic interview, everything would have been better. But I don't think so. I went to another interview yesterday with the same company. The parking over at their place was so bad, I had to park across the street. The lady that spoke to me in all of her amazing tattoos was asking me if I could work under pressure. I said, "Yeah, of course. You show me how to do this stuff, and then I can do it faster." I mean, I would think anybody would be able to do that if they're enough of an expert with something. Um, man, she was tatted up. She had the whole arms on both sides covered up in them. I actually used to have a teacher in 12th grade that had a lot of tattoos on her arms. And I remember that it was always so surprising because I like every time she would wear like these different sleeveless shirts, and I would always wonder like, man, she must be the school either has to be really open minded or she must be like the best at her job because all those tattoos and not a single no one has a problem with it. I just thought it was funny. Like they would they don't even try to hide it anymore. Like I remember when I was trying to apply for that casino job, they're like, if you have any tattoos, you have to hide. And I'm like, okay, I'll make sure to do that. But now they don't really seem to care for a lot of these positions. Even the ones that you would think they would at least feign like concern over. Like, oh man, we don't want our students to see you as a role model of ink. They don't even like try to play that game anymore. I remember one of I believe it was the college coordinator for my school. Uh, didn't have any when the year started, and then by the end of it had one on like her arm or something. And I remember she had like pulled out her arm to kind of show me something on the paper, and one of these other somebody else like noticed, like, yeah, that wasn't there before. Because I wouldn't have noticed because I'm not sitting here like like I'll notice a tattoo, but if it wasn't there before, I probably wouldn't notice, especially if it's one I haven't known for that long. So yeah, it's this is the ink era. Like I said, I don't personally have a problem with them, but I do find it interesting that they did that study about how people who have them are less likely to be financially well off. That tattoos are inadvertently a sign of a lower income or socioeconomic status. I mean, I don't dispute that because it's like a lot of rich people are older, so they probably, never even had any desire to have ink in them anyway. But really, I can't think of any millionaires or billionaires, like even the younger ones, like Musk, for example, who are just sporting those things. So I don't want to get something that, in a non-subtle way, or rather, excuse me, in a subtle way, confirms the idea that I'm always going to be a lesser income person. Like I already didn't like them as something to possibly get, but then like knowing that too makes me even more reluctant to even bother with that. So I said people are insane. But yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from this week was the 4 interviews in 3 days, and then technically there's like it's going to be 5 in 4 days because there's another one for tomorrow, for today rather, which actually surprised me because normally they don't do that. It's usually Monday through Friday when they're looking for people, and then they kind of give you the weekend off. All I know is if after this I still can't get hired, then it's just impossible. Like I'm gonna just throw my hands up and say forget it. But yeah, the fact that they only make a few things has me a little bit more confident about my ability to memorize the stuff. Because if it's, I do feel like that's one of the biggest pitfalls for me at restaurants when they have all these ingredients and this goes in that, this goes in this goes in that. I really do think it's just too much. It's like you give me a mental overload. Like, okay, damn. But yeah, I've been just kind of swamped with this stuff. Interviews and fill this out, go over here, complete this. I like how they said, "Oh, when you go to this interview, bring this thing with you." It's like a little document. At the interview, they didn't even ask for it. I said, "Isn't it sad that like they're not even consistent with themselves? Like, not even just, oh, okay, this other store has this, whatever." Because I said that when I went to do this delivery driver position, both places gave me a vest, and then one took it back, one let me keep it, which I thought was so weird. But What's crazy to me is that they'll do these interviews and they'll have like instructions in their email. And then if you do something that's like not within the email, or maybe it doesn't look like you're doing what the email said, they don't even care. It's just whatever. Or the person they tell you in the email is going to interview you is nowhere to be seen, which is another like running gag slash recurring theme. Just these people saying one thing and doing the other. It's like, oh yeah, I'm so interested in interviewing with you. That's why I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play like Casper and Vanish before you get here. I'm telling you, the people running these restaurants turn into Where's Waldo. They, you have to get a little book out and find them in a little red and white striped shirt. I find that so comical. Like, oh, please come tomorrow at 3 p.m. and bring this, and then you don't bring it. They're like, okay. So I said there is no consistency. It's just people doing whatever. They don't even care. It's just another day in the hood for them. Just having people come in for interviews. I said before, I think a lot of these jobs are like that, where they're so used to the prospect of new people applying, but then no one actually getting hired, that it just is a thing where they're like, "Hello, person that I know is never going to work alongside me. How are you? Tell me about yourself. What do you like to do? What are your hobbies?" Which is always one of the most obnoxious questions I get during those, because it's like, I don't know. I just feel like, why do you need to know that? Like, I know they're trying to feign interest in you as a person, right? But come on, as long as the person can do the job, it doesn't matter if they're someone that's going to the nightclub or drawing or whatever on the side. Again, it's all, you want to talk about some fake concern. It's just so trite to me. Like, let me ask you this stuff that has nothing to do with the job so I can make it seem like I care about you outside of the job, even though we know that's total bupkis. That's total hogwash. Like, give me a break. Ah, it's just so obnoxious, man. And they always ask that question: "What are your hobbies? What do you like to do? Tell me about yourself." God, you get asked that more by these employers than you do any of the supposed chicks that like men. I mean, at least it would make sense if the latter group was asking. What do you like to do? Just so nosy for nothing, man. Like, and I again, it all goes back to that same belief of like, what's the point? Like, if somewhere's not going to hire me, I don't feel like really any sort of purpose behind explaining what I do or what I'm into. It's like, for what? They don't even like you. So I said, this stuff is so stupid. What are your hobbies, person that I'm never going to actually hire? Tell me what you like to do. I'm gonna say I like long walks on the beach. I have goals and dreams that are out of my reach. I said before, if I really like truly did get hired by somewhere permanently, I might actually apply to other places like as a joke and just be like, yeah, so I wanted to hear about this position. I'm very interested, et cetera, et cetera. Just basically do to them what they do to me, where it's just one side already knows before you even walk in the door what you're actually thinking or going to do, but then still pretend to be interested anyway. Mm. And I remember I went to orientation last Saturday. There was this one woman I was sitting by, and I was like, "Man, she's really nice looking." Too bad we already know our fate. No, they usually have that where there's like some attractive woman somewhere, and it's gonna go okay, whatever. As far as like I make like a mental note of it, but I don't follow up on it because just it's again it's like why bother? We already know how this is gonna go. Let me see here. And another thing these people love doing is sending these emails. Like so many of them, you'll get one person saying, "Thanks for applying, but we're not interested in you." Um, you have another one who says, "We appreciate whatever, but yeah, goodbye." I mean, it's stupid. So, as someone who checks their email every day, I've more than multiple times lived to regret it because it's just again, what's the point? Like it's the same thing over and over. It's like I readily admit when I go to these interviews, I don't expect to get hired, but I do it because one, it's a utility. It's not like the chick thing where it's something that's totally optional that people hype up for the sake of their own, nonsense. But also because I truly I like the idea that you have this person who's like not of the belief that things are going to go their way, but that doesn't stop them from at least trying. So it's harder to be like, well, he didn't even make it. No, he tried. He tried and tried and tried. Like I said, that was 30 applications to that place this past Friday. I might actually rename the stream to that 30 applications are applying to the to the same franchise 30 times or something like that. Megumi writes, "Hey Justin, hope things aren't too crazy for that job interview. Amount to anything you went to last Saturday." Oh, let me discuss that. It was quite a cartoon show. So it was at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's why I didn't stream on Saturday because it would just be too much to like try to get up at 6 or 7 and then go over there. So it was at 10 in the morning. I show up. I've got my little papers, whatever. They have us go up to the in this line, right? To like give them the documents, et cetera, and then give us a little envelope. That's when the guy who's there's a guy and a lady. The guy says, "Hey, if you parked in front of this other thing, you can get towed." I'm like, "Oh, well, now I have to go." So I had to run back out and then park in the car in a place where I didn't really like it because of the angle. You know how some parking spaces they have you at like tilted in a certain way, and you're worried you might hit somebody. So I go out and do that. I come back and they start explaining to us the job, which is a delivery driver for their restaurant, and they talk about how they have this app and they want you to not carry any weapons with you when you go on your drives, and they do car checks to make sure that people's vehicles don't have weapons inside. And when I hear that, I go, wait a second, because with Amazon, for example, just as an example, they give you a company car that you use to make your rounds and trips or whatever, deliver your 200, 300 packets a day. This place wants to reserve the right to check the vehicle of someone that they hire, even though the vehicle is not something they own. And they're going to have you going up to random people's houses and they think you shouldn't have any way of defending yourself. So if someone pulls a gun on you or a knife, uh, oh well. So that part like instantly, if it were their car, their company car, absolutely sure. But no, that was uninteresting. But my favorite part was when they were talking about how if they like as an employee you're not you're because they gave me the uniform. They say as an employee, you're supposed to not engage in behaviors that are not appealing to the company. And they showed us 3 pictures of this guy with they drew like a smiley face on top of him. And they said that he was in this video or he was caught like posing with like gang signs and guns and smoking after delivering this order, and how even though this was years ago, he's still paying to the restaurant to for damages to their reputation. And it was just funny because they tried to hide his identity. All it took me was a little tiny bit of views, right? Um, but then it's like I guess it's so counterintuitive to me that you don't want this video to damage your company's reputation. Yet I only know that the video exists because you guys brought it up during your presentation. You get where it's like the Streisand effect, like you say, "Don't watch this. This is bad," etc. But then you're the one that's like making people aware of it. Man, if I wasn't worried they'd mess with me, I would play that video on a stream, like get Google Hangouts because the guy goes in and he's like smoking on the couch. Then he like goes to the corner with a gun, and they said that he stayed there for almost an hour. And I'm like, how the hell, as a delivery driver, were you able to just not come back to work for that long? Like what? Because these people are pretty tight-lipped about schedules. Like, okay, you got 10 minutes to go over here. This place is 5 minutes away. How did that even happen? Like, how do you just not go back to work for almost a whole hour? And I do understand why they still want to try and check their employees for weapons, but at the same time, I understand how rancid in the U.S. is with firearms. Well, I told you we have 40 we're less than 4% of the world's population, but we own almost half the guns in the entire world. So my point I'm making to you is that if this were a company car and they said, "Hey, we got to check in there," whatever, but I don't think they should have the right to tell me what I can and can't have in my own damn car. That's just my opinion. We can agree to disagree. I think it's very dangerous to tell someone, "Oh yeah, all these random people you deliver stuff to, they can have whatever they like, but if you think you're gonna have something, we have some bad news for you." Yeah, that's an invasion of privacy too. Dude, I just find that so weird. Like, oh yes, if you work for us, we're going to expect you to use your own car to drive and use your own gas. By the way, we're not going to let you have what you want in your own car either. It's like trying to control what you can or can't have in your. Yeah, that's my point. That there are driving jobs that give you a vehicle. These people don't. So it's like I'm already having to use my own gas. If something happens to the car, I have to use my own insurance. And I need to also be mindful that you don't want me to have a weapon or to have a way of defending myself because I'm working for you. It's like, to hell with you. But that video is still my favorite thing because it's like they screenshotted from it trying to warn us and like trying to like hide the guy's identity. And all it took was one quick Google search, like just typing in the company name and one of those like different websites, and then there it was. He said that one day he showed that guy's pictures to people and asked because he asked us who it was. He said someone that was applying was like, "That's my homie." It's like, yeah, I'd love for my friend to be someone that shirks off going back to work for an hour as they saw on the couch smoking and wearing a gold chain and posing with guns. Man, that was ghetto. That felt like something out of a skit, like they were parodying. Remember the stream title from a few weeks ago, self parody. That's what that felt like. No, it is absolutely insane. But like but that shows you they were either having no customers that day or the manager over there wasn't worth the damn. Because if he was able to go to someone's place and stay there for almost an hour and just not get in any like if that video wasn't recorded, he would have gotten in no trouble. So he would have just been able to, just not go back to work for a whole almost a whole hour and whatever. Just I'm telling you, man, some jobs they have this thing where it's like they're on easy mode. Like they're like you know how I told you that when I was working at the restaurant, I was afraid of getting fired or getting in trouble for something I didn't do, or maybe like talking about like you're always worried that there's going to be something they catch you on. Some of these people can do it seems like anything at all and have no pushback, no consequence, not like I would never even dare if I had a job where I was driving around to just sit somewhere for that long and like think I'm still going to be working there. Because a lot of these different restaurants, for example, they put you on time limits. Hey, you got to go and deliver this in 20 minutes, and hey, you better cook this in 5 minutes. I mean, like they're not playing when they say you need to make this thing to be done, which is why it's all the more insane that this guy was able to just completely dodge any type of consequence outside, like besides that video. Like if they hadn't have recorded that, he would have been able to just not go to work. Why can't you just attend a job and they behave normally, go through the basic procedures, get hired, no strings attached or silly over exaggerated measures? Well, I tell you what it is. They want to sound appealing when you're applying, and then when you start working for them, you see all the pitfalls and cracks, and that's where their true colors come out. Because before I started working for that restaurant, they didn't tell me anything about we want you to be able to do all of this stuff in 1 day or 2 days or whatever. And when I worked for the retailer, they didn't mention anything about a website where people go on there and give you enough bad reviews. The managers who's never even met you can just get rid of you. They don't mention that stuff, and that's done on purpose. Same thing with this delivery driver position. They didn't mention we do car checks. I know they do inspections where they make sure the vehicle's working, but as far as looking in there to see what to hell with that. The FBI isn't even that intrusive. That's how majority of these jobs positions are like now. They always want to sound so hot before you start working for them, and then when they pull the lever, pull the switch, that's where they start revealing all that stuff that is not appealing. They're like, "Hello, new person that's going to be hired by us. Uh, did we mention that you have to work on holidays and you also have to work on at 6 in the morning and get back at 2 and then come back at 6 the next day and just stuff like that." That was always one of the worst parts of trying to work somewhat at one of these places. They have so many different varying hours. Sometimes they want you there early in the morning, sometimes they want you there late at night. I mean, at least with this place, they said they tell you your schedule 3 weeks in advance. So, at least you can make accommodations based off that. Oh, you probably didn't hear about the new mass shooting, the one in Maine, where the guy went in the bowling alley and killed like 18 people. Then they were looking for him for 2 days because he was able to somehow get away. And they found him dead outside of I think, a recycling center that he used to work for. And that shooting was really scary for two reasons. One, because Maine is not a state known for that type of violence. Uh, when I did my report, I mentioned they only had 29 murders out in the state again with a million plus people throughout all of last year, which is terrific. Like that's a murder rate that is as tiny as you could probably realistically get. But also, like the fact that he got away was even more disturbing because they usually get into a shootout with the police or with some other person there that some that like where they take their own life. So the fact that they didn't know where he was for a few days made it even more freaky. Like, is he going to strike again? Is he, just it was 2 days of terror. I'm telling you, these mass shootings, man, everywhere you go, anywhere you look, they're all over the place. I'm not even kidding. Like, name a location or an event, like just a general event, and I'll be like, oh yeah, there was one. Like you said, I'm sure you're safe. You go to the mall, right? They have security guards. No, there was a guy that went outside. I believe it was in El Paso, and these people were at the mall, and this guy like went in the parking lot and just started shooting people. Like, oh, if you go to a music concert, you're safe, right? They have security. No, there was a guy that in Las Vegas went up to the 33rd floor of a hotel and started firing down the crowd and killed like 50 plus people. Oh, if you go to a nightclub, I'm sure you're safe. They have security, right? Nope. There was a guy that went in. It was in Florida. Went to a nightclub, shot up, and killed 50 people there too. So I also did watch the documentary on that one. It was really scary because the thing is, like, most shooters, they go to some location where it's just they see there's a lot of people and they just start firing. This guy went to the highest of highest floors at this hotel and waited with all of his ammo. And there's footage of him bringing all his luggage up with all the different guns in there and bullets. Waited with all of his ammo for this event to start, for people to start to be singing and, like, kind of like into it, and just started spraying. I think they said he owned over 100 guns. Because that's the thing, that like a lot of the people who are really obsessed with that stuff, they don't just own, like one gun to protect them, maybe two. Some of these people have 15 guns, 30 guns. There was a guy I used to watch. He showed a collection of his guns. He had them all laid out in the bed. It was like 15 or 20 of them. So that's why I said, like, people who are into that firearm stuff, they're not just getting one, they're getting as many as God, man. He had enough ammo to probably arm a small militia or like a city block. It was crazy. Guns, guns, guns. I'll never forget the Vegas shooting, man. I went like that happened at night, and I was like kind of going to sleep, and it said like 18 people were deceased. I woke up and they had updated it to like 40 or 50. And then all the stupid politicians, we need to ban bump stocks. Oh, shut up. I told you it was the same thing. Like, you could literally have a mass shooting where someone kills 100 or 200 people, and they'll talk about it for maybe a few days, and then they'll go right back to just like nothing changing. The US will not do anything. It's not as common over here, but there was a shooting some months ago this year. It was a drive-by shooting and a young girl died and some more people were fatally injured. Oh yeah, children are they're if I remember correctly, I've heard that their leading cause of death are homicides. Like, because kids, they don't have as strong of immune systems as adults, for example, but they're most of them tend to not get hit with some kind of like deadly illness. So if something happens to them that's fatal, it's either a car accident or some murder, homicide. And trust me, when Sandy Hook happened, I was in ninth grade, and then when Uvalde happened last year, 10 years later, it's like they go in there and they murder these children, they rob them of their life. These young shooters who they got to adult age, they make sure the kids don't get that chance. Um, and they're not, their main target is kids. That's why they go to preschools. And a lot of it is preventable because, like I said, with Uvalde, they had like no locked door, which I just thought was nuts. They had multiple, security guards there, but they were too scared to do their job. You'll be surprised how much like just different bad things happen because of the negligence of people that could actually do stuff to fix it. I'm not even just talking about like lawmakers. Like you have had multiple shooters where there's like a background thing where you find out, hey, this person was in trouble with the law for this or what. It just it's such a perfect cocktail of everyone kind of not really being as alert as they should be that leads to that kind of stuff. Mm. You think they do a lot of these kinds of checks if the person is wanting to purchase firearms? Well, there are, for some reason, we have people in the US that are against background checks by virtue of being against any and all forms of gun control. Like you could say, hey, you know what? If somebody has had some kind of mental health evaluation in the past where they were found to be homicidal, whatever, depressed. I mean, even if you're not like wanting to kill others, the fact that you could use it on yourself is also something to, take into account. Maybe we should look into that before we give them this weapon. No, they have the First Amendment. They have the Second Amendment. I forgot for a second. First Amendment is free speech, and then Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. The right to bear arms. So they're the people just literally against any type of gun control. Even something as basic as, can we like make sure the person who we give this to is not a demon? Like just pass the background check and then you can have your weapon. No, even that's like too much. By the way, it turns out me and that actress have a lot in common. Like I'm not even saying that to be funny. We have many similar attributes. We both have had people online that have pretended to be us. Um, we both have had people online who say we're nothing, but then they do things that I just don't see how you would do it for someone who you don't think is important, or at least of enough significance to sit here and talk trash about for so long. We both have had people who've analyzed our attire. Dude, someone on I'm not even kidding. That event I went to, like everyone seemed to be in a good mood. They were happy. They were all like smiling and just kind of like, having a good time, right? Someone uploaded a picture they took with her, and I know it was from the same day because it's like, she had the same stuff on whatever, like around the time that it happened. So like a month ago now. And this person said, referring to her shirt, right? Four buttons undone, brazen. And then this other one says, given that she's only actually got two buttons fastened, the rest of them are left open for the cleavage window. And there's the convenient necklace that also hangs down in the middle to draw attention directly to the valley. I'd say it's more than just brazen. It's transparently obvious and has been that she's desperate for attention. And I said, because, like, for example, I never button my shirt up all the way. I don't really like the way that it looks with that. And it's more comfortable for me to have buttons on, but it's like you get where that's like you don't like someone, or maybe whatever you think they're attention seeking, and you've gotten to a point now where you're analyzing what shirt they had on when they went to a convention. Because the way they're describing her shirt, I'm not even kidding. It literally is the way that I wear mine. Like, am I looking for attention? Lagumi, I have, how many is that? Three buttons undone. Well, I'm desperately looking for attention. Like you get where that's really nuts. That there are men who are so obsessed with that woman as to sit there and like analyze not only what she was wearing, but like the type of way it was worn and how the necklace is there on purpose so that you can look at what's like, God, man, it is disgusting. I because we talked before about like I'm not one of these rabid women defenders you see online, but just the idea of because like when we talk about chicks, we're talking about stupid stuff they do. You don't see me going, here's this picture of this woman. Notice how her eyes are peering to this. Because they this guy said that that she's had work done with her face and it looks like I don't even want to like repeat it, but I just thought it was funny because it's literally the same thing of like people hiding their face while they talk trash about somebody else. It is extremely creepy. And I'm not kidding when I said when I was reading that, I was like getting, I don't want to say like PTSD or anything, but like I was actually like flashing back to the types of stuff that's written. It was like, that's crazy. Like, ugh. You have to be like just like, oh, that I don't even know what else to say. Just the multiple buttons undone and the convenient necklace. It's like, oh, are you talking about me? Am I trying to get you to stare at my chest for attention like that? Like it's man, it's sad. It's sad that people are like that. Guys have nothing better, nothing else to do with their time. Oh no, they don't. But it's funny because I've had people who like you remember the guy that made the video on me and he put my name in the title, right? With how all the clips of me, etc. And he was like, in the comment section, this guy asked, "Are you gonna do a follow-up?" He's not really relevant enough. And I'm like, how am I not important? But then you spent enough time to make a whole and not even just like have me in the video, because some people will do that where they'll like talk about multiple people, but to like actually sit there and stick someone else, the person's name in the title as to draw attention to the fact that you are talking about them, clearly designed to get their attention or the attention of people that like them, don't like them, etc. And I'm not relevant enough. And they did the same thing to her. They kept saying she is an unsuccessful uh actress that wasn't and I'm like, guys, you don't make whole threads about people that don't matter. That's not a thing that happens. They always want to tear somebody down like they've done something themselves. Like, give me a break. So yeah, we have a lot of similarities. And we're gonna do a we're gonna remember the scene in Spider-Man 3 when Sandman and Venom team up where Venom's like, you don't like Spider-Man, I don't like Spider-Man. Let's get together. We're gonna have like a similar thing where it's like, hey, you got harassed by people online, me too. Let's team up. Contradicting their own viewpoints of the person. Well, you know what I'm talking about. It's like if you think someone is so irrelevant, they're nothing, they're a failure, nobody knows who they are, they don't matter, they're just all the little different nasty like why make a thread or a post or a form or whatever and have their name in the title? It's not like you said, "Hey, there's this weird guy, his name is etc. He does this." No, you put the person's name in the title to get people who know who they are to come and read and comment and write stuff too. It's good to know you two seem to be having a no, I didn't learn that from her. I learned it from so again, there's like two of them. There's the one that I met at the convention. I only have had one interaction with since that happened. And the other one who's like more active but still is like, whatever, busy with their own thing. I found out because I was on one of the like sites that likes that same stuff that she was in, and there was a group of guys that took a photo with her from that same day that I met her, and everyone in the comment section was like, "Oh, cool, that's nice." But then the one guy that wrote the thing about you know four buttons undone, and I was like, what in the world? And then the other one like added to it about like that's where I noticed the weird comments. But then I looked and I found out they've had whole threads where they just bash the lady, like just talking trash about her acting ability or physical appearance, um, your lack of notoriety. I'm like, this is crazy. I see why people don't like when they go online, they just post stuff and jump off. When you have to deal with that, I completely understand. But Gumi, imagine if you made one post on social media where you're like, "Oh, there was this show that's coming back that I was on. Can I be in the next season?" And then I was again like it's one sentence right in one post, and I'm like, Megumi is desperately seeking to return to the only thing he's ever been known for. Like, damn, just sorry that this person wants to be involved with the new thing. I didn't know that was a bad event. People are going to hate. They invest a lot of their time into hating on someone that actually more important than themselves. Of course, it would be faceless people posting these insults towards that person. It's just the audacity because it's like none of them have pictures of themselves, but they're gonna come here and talk about how they don't like the way she looks or this outfit that she had on. I'm like, God, at least if you're gonna try to throw bombs, maybe come out of your shelter, like maybe actually show yourself too. Just a thought. But you have to admit that is insane to like actually sit there and analyze not only what outfit she was wearing for one day, but then also to talk about, uh the number of buttons that were undone and then also the convenient necklace like it really does feel like a parody of what like somebody would write if they were serious about trying to analyze someone. Like we have the joke of like, oh, there's people online and they try to analyze you. Like that's what I would write like as a gag, but they wrote it seriously, like they were talking about it, and it was like a whole paragraph. And my favorite part is when the one guy kept trying to accuse everyone that defended her of wanting to date her, and I'm like, sir, that lady is the same age as my dad. So this has nothing to do with any attraction at all. I mean, it's really just me trying to be consistent. I don't like it when people talk trash about the way I look and hide their face. So I'm not really a fan when they do it to other people either. Oh, by the way, the person that the mundane existence was about actually did ask me about the strike, the Hollywood strike or the Saga strike, whatever you want to call it, about a week ago, and I said to him, "Do you not remember the fact that what I told you before? I'm done being the news guy. You want to learn about that stuff? Go look it up yourself." And even though he was like, "Oh, okay, all right, whatever," really, but I did relent a little bit as far as mentioning that work like these workers are underpaid or whatever, but I still didn't like go into the specifics and how long it's because I'm really I wasn't joking when I said that these people have really gotten complacent with some person being their news guy or whatever. And I'm not going to allow them to not pay attention to the things I think are important, but then try to ask me something about something that they're supposedly curious of but can't do the most basic of research into. I'm not doing that. So he can get mad if he wants, but that era of me explaining stuff and to hell with that. You want to see me explain something? Watch a news video. It does come down to laziness. My internet is no better than his. He could look that up anytime he wants. Just like Megumi, you watched the documentary on that shooting. Nobody made you watch that. You wanted to learn about it, right? I'll tell you the saddest part is that when you start thinking about how many adults don't read the news, it actually kind of destroys your faith in humanity because, like, it's one thing to not want to read a book, like a whole novel, right? But then when you start factoring that, like, most news stories are probably like a 2-minute read, 3-minute read, and now a lot of people can't even do that. It gets even more pathetic because it's like, this is really the thing that stops you from knowing what's going on in the world. A little, you're too lazy to read like 3 paragraphs, 4 paragraphs, 5. Like, that's not even 2 pages of a book, and they can't do it. It's too much. You know what I mean, right? That, like, if they're incapable of even reading the news, then that really does mean that we're reaching, like, new levels of, illiteracy. They'll read it if it's huge drama post on one of the social media. Oh, of course. Somebody comes and they're talking about how they were dating this other person's girlfriend and, you know, found out this woman has 3 kids by 2 other men. You know, they'll read that, but if it's anything geopolitical or even something in their own backyard, like, there are, trust me, as far as I can tell, that guy had no idea that the Maine shooting happened. And yeah, Maine isn't close to California, but it still received national attention. So, like, I didn't tell you that, like, that same person when the Uvalde shooting happened, not even kidding, everyone I knew personally knew, even people that don't watch the news regularly, like, just because it was being posted about on social media too. He was the only person I knew who said they hadn't heard of it. And I was like, you must be really living under a rock. Oh, I'm sure it was. It was a big, but you know what I'm talking about, right? That, like, when if it's being just kind of like pushed everywhere, when you find out that someone hasn't heard of it, it's like they must really just sit in this bubble of fellow non-news watching people. And if they don't see something flashing on the TV, and even that's by chance, 'cause a lot of them will just sit in their room and go to sleep and then go to work. It's like, that's why I call them mundane existence, because it's literally a person who has important things happening around them, and they don't give a damn because it doesn't affect them. And it, like, not only do they not give a damn to even like know what's going on, but in a lot of cases, the few times they kind of like express an interest, it still shows just how much they don't care. I brought this up in that stream. I had a pen with the queen on it, and I gave it to somebody else because what happened was that Amazon was doing this thing where they have like a deal where you get free shipping if it's like, I think, 35. So I got that just to, and I gave it to the other person. But I had a pen with her on it and I showed it to this guy and he's like, wait, so did and this is like around the time that Charles got coronated, or like officially made the king, with the whole crown or whatever. And he was like, wait, so did somebody else die? Because they just had somebody else take the crown. I was like, no, we're talking about her son, who became king automatically upon her passing and then was formally given the title, afterward. It's really not that hard of a concept to like understand that when someone takes a title, there's a process involved to them actually getting it. So for example, when Kennedy was assassinated, his vice president, LBJ, automatically became president upon his passing because there's a line of succession. But he didn't officially become president until he took the inaugural, or rather, excuse me, was sworn in. So you see what I mean, of how, like, there's a formality involved with this stuff. You don't just, like, even if you do technically get it, like, once something happens or someone passes, there's still a process you have to go through to formalize it. Dude, I still can't get over the fact that he was like asking me what do AIDS do? Like, because AIDS, Megumi, in the US were one of the deadliest diseases in the 80s. We had so many people dying from that thing, just ravaging the body, right? And I said to him, look it up. But you get where like and you understand that I find it really dangerous that he didn't know what HIV does to people because it's such a like if you're active with not even just the opposite gender, if you're active in a non-platonic way, there's a chance you can end up contracting, and like it's not as bad now because there's different treatments or whatever, but back then, like I said, man, I'll never forget the stars we lost, Rock Hudson, Freddie Mercury. It was no joke. That's why I said it's really dangerous he didn't have familiarity because that's not some minor disease. That was one of the biggest killers of people not even 2 decades before he was born, and like he doesn't know what it does. It's a very deadly disease. But you see why I said the mundane existence can be dangerous because it's literally people who have no curiosity about the world beyond a current event. It's like he knows COVID because it happened during his time, but stuff that is still around, just not as much, like HIV. It doesn't mean anything to him or me. Well, at least I'm using that to rhyme, but you get the idea, the point of like, if it doesn't affect him, he doesn't care. Now, Megumi, I'm not sure how much because I want to like stay on this topic for a second because I find this interesting. I'm not sure how much you're aware of United States history. I'm not sure how much you're aware of African Americans in U.S. history, but you can kind of divide it up into a few different significant events, right? So when the U.S. starts, has slaves, and the slavery issue for the first roughly 70 years of American history just kind of like builds up where you've got the northerners who are against it, the southerners who are just thriving off it, all these blacks going out picking up cotton, helping, their economy, etc. And this is the thing that leads to the Civil War. There's stuff that before that, but it's, this is the issue, that the primary issue that leads to that conflict. And after this blood during this conflict, Lincoln uses signs the Emancipation Proclamation, or issues it rather, and this brings about the end of slavery in the United States. But even after slavery was technically over, non-black liking whites made sure to do certain things to infringe upon the rights of African Americans. This is where the Ku Klux Klan starts. This is where you have the various voter discrimination laws, like the grandfather clause, where if your grandpa couldn't vote, you couldn't vote. The various lynchings, and this is why 100 plus years later, when we get the Civil Rights Act of '64 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, then you have actual protections in place for blacks, mostly in the South, but all across America. Now, I'm sure you know of Lincoln, but do you realize that there are African Americans, not even like little kids, African Americans who, even if they know Lincoln fed the slaves, they don't know what the actual name, the title of the document that accomplished that was. And do you see how that's like extremely pathetic and that's embarrassing and that's like something that they should feel bad about not knowing? The literal document that ended slavery, it's got a pretty simple name. They couldn't tell you off top of their head. I asked that guy, you know what document ended slavery? They can never just say no. They have to, pretend that they're more familiar with history than they actually are. But you get where that's pathetic. One of the most important documents in history, the direct cause for why slavery is no longer a thing in America, and they can't even they can't even name it. I find that extremely sad. I think it's embarrassing. I don't even think I have enough words to just condemn the ignorance, like just the pure ignorance on display with something like that. Yeah, it's very unfortunate how a lot of black people are like that. Just don't care. That's why, I know you're not interested in this, but like when I did my documentary, and I'm still doing like the parts of it, it was so important for me to do Johnson because between the Emancipation Proclamation and the Voting Rights Act, you had 100 years of blacks being pretty much citizens in name only. Like they're Fred, but they're discriminated against. You have whites only counters. Again, when they want to vote, they stop them with these BS laws. Like what Johnson did for blacks is something only a Southerner could have done. And it is one of the most important things that any person in American history has done for them as a collective group. But I think it comes down to if it doesn't affect them directly, they don't care. Well, with me, I'm not affected directly by this stuff, but it's like it's such a basic historical milestone. And I mentioned this before. I had grandparents that grew up in the South where you had to sit at the count. You couldn't set a counter with a white person, or if you wanted to vote, they try to say, "Well, was your grandpa able to vote? Was he a person who could vote as well?" Oh, sorry. Oh well, can't vote. They were participants of the civil rights movement, boycotting all these businesses that wouldn't serve them. So, like I said, this stuff was not that long ago. Like not long enough to where there aren't people that still remember what it was like being told you can't eat somewhere because you're not of your complexion. Yes, so it is very important to at least know these facts. If it wasn't for your grandparents and such, you wouldn't be alive today. Yeah, that's my thing of like, I'm never gonna forget what happened to them. I mean, the people that played a bigger role in my life than anybody else had to deal with that drivel for the first 20 something years of their lives, and then arguably even after that. I told you that when Obama got elected, and then when he like during his inauguration, my grandpa cried, and my dad asked him why he was crying. He said he didn't think he would live to see a black person become president. And like I'm kind of saying that like laughing, but it's like you have to really think he was born in Mississippi at a time where, I mean, forget a black as president, they had no blacks in Congress. And all this discrimination, and in the span of this 50, 60, 70-year period, you went from not being able to vote if your grandpa couldn't vote, depending on what state you were in, to having an African American as the commander in chief. It was a hell of a turnaround. Now stuff changes really quickly, man. But it's sad too because there's so many different steps that were there, right, to get into that point. And a lot of those battles were fought during the 60s and, in the decades that came afterward. Like, I think someone like Obama or any other black person that ends up achieving higher office, even coming about, is a direct result of the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. And like I said, someone like Jesse Jackson, who was one of Martin Luther King's acolytes running for president back in the 80s, really set the stage for Obama. When he first ran in 84, Jackson, they said he was a joke. He wasn't going to get any votes. Then he came in third place. And then during his second campaign, he was the front runner for a moment. He actually had more votes at one point. And then in New York, they called him an anti-Semitic and just started smearing him or whatever. But it still was like that was the first black person to run for president that actually not only won multiple contests, but got a lot of blacks registered to vote out of just pure excitement at the idea that one of them could reach the White House. And so, in many aspects, 20 years later, when Obama won, people pointed to that and said, "Yeah, that was part of that process to getting there." Which is why it's so pathetic that when I ask this person, "Hey, do you know who that was?" and they say they don't know who he is, and it's like that bugs me because I know that without him, we possibly wouldn't have had this thing that later happened later on. Rather, hey Megumi, all you need to know about how much of a failure the American educational system is to just go around and ask children or even like grown adults, right? Because at least with the adults, you can say they've been in school for multiple years, they should know better. All you have to do is ask them who Johnson is, like who Lyndon Johnson is. That's all you have to do is ask them. If they don't know who he is, their education failed them. Like that's all you have to do is just ask them if they know who that man is. Because Megumi, like again, I know you're not into history, but this is the man who passed Medicare and Medicaid, which is the closest thing we have to what you have in Canada with, or excuse me, the UK. I'm sorry, I messed up your country, but it's the closest thing we have to what you have in the UK with regard to like free healthcare, where once you get 65, you're subsidized by the government for the rest of your life with healthcare. And before that, old people who got sick either had to take out a loan or just die. So that was a huge step in terms of bettering the healthcare system in America. And it's one of the most important laws, one of the most popular ones. And again, that's not even talking about the Voting Rights and Civil Rights Act, which did a very large part to end much of the discrimination that had been left over from the 19th century. So this man is one of the most important presidents from any objective metric. And when I find grown adults who've never heard of him, but they know what Medicare and they know what Medicaid are, and they know about the Civil Rights Act and a little bit about the Civil Rights Movement. Again, a little bit, a little smidge. That shows me their education failed them. I'm not even kidding, Megumi. Johnson's probably more important than any of the presidents that came after him. From a legislative standpoint, no one comes close. If I live to be 65 and I don't have to pay for my for for healthcare anymore, I know who to thank. Where's that book? Oh, I got it right here. Let me get the other one. Ugh. Man, doing a documentary requires so much research. Like I feel like a true historian, man. It still is very shocking knowing so many are extremely ignorant. I told you what it is when people go to school from the time they're little kids, and this never really stops. Ignorance is bliss, they say. It is. But a lot of people, when they go to school from when they're kids up until they're adults, they don't they learn stuff so they can pass tests, not because it's important. Like teachers don't communicate why you should at least be familiar with this. That's why, even though we have a Martin Luther King holiday, remember we talked about this before. You ask these bastards, hey, tell me about Martin Luther King's wife, who actually she survived all the way up until I was in preschool. She was a very a great civil rights leader in her own right. They don't know her name. They know nothing about her. If they do know her name, I said, okay, tell me about his dad. What do you do? They don't know him either. You ask them about his kids. They don't know them. I mean, you get where what I said of like, even if they're familiar with someone, their knowledge of them is so limited and bare bones and almost like completely just again like it's all surface level. It's all very tiny little fragmented pieces of information that they only know because there's a holiday, they get a day off from going to school or work, and they can thank this deceased man for why that's the case. But they couldn't bother to open one book about the man or anything else that would actually go away and giving them some knowledge of this person that allows them to sit at home and just be lazy, like you said. Let me see. Can I flip this over there? Hey, Megumi, if I live to be 65 and I don't have to pay for my healthcare anymore, I know whose picture to kiss. If I don't like I've never lived in the South, never wanted to, um, but just like pretending that I was someone who was from the South, or I guess lived over there, you know, the fact that I don't have to, I'm not dissuaded from being able to vote by stupid laws like, was your grandpa able to vote? I know who to thank. I'm not even saying that as a joke. Like that's the person that literally stopped all of that horrible trash. And these people just they're like I said, we have a really pathetic lack of knowledge over here, which is why I said, Megumi, in 9 years, get ready. Who's Queen Elizabeth? Who's that? It's coming. It's like, you don't think that's sad that like one of these days, just name a celebrity you like, right? Whether it's an actor or a comedian, whoever. One of these days, that person is gonna die, and it could be the day they die. It could be a year after, 10 years. There's gonna be people who have no idea who they are, and not even just people who are like, maybe they're not into that specific type of thing. No, there are going to be people who just have no idea who that is. And it like to where it doesn't even make sense. Like they've seen movies they were in, they've even heard them probably in a song or two if they're a singer. And they just well, I'd take it back. Singers are the ones that get the most remembrance. But it's like, you don't think that's sad that we're basically just individuals who, even if we do something important, because the people around us don't make sure to convey the information, keep it going after we pass, we're just gonna die out in solar memory. We're gonna die twice. We're gonna die physically, and then we're gonna die from the fact that no one ever brings us up, no one ever talks about us. No matter what good thing we did, it got erased. It's just, like I said, I have a hard time being excited for that fate. I remember you saying that before, and I'm dreading when that day will come. It's going to come, not because Queen Elizabeth was an insignificant historical figure. Like when I do my uh you know documentaries on any of the presidents after I believe Roosevelt, I'll mention like their meetings with her, because she met with all of them except for Johnson, if I remember correctly. But she'll get mentioned in my thing. I mean, hell, if I'm able to do a lot of the ones I'd like to do, I might even do one on her documentary, because I know there's a good book on her that came out in like 2012 or around that time. All I'm getting at is because people don't read and because people don't talk about historical figures in any context besides, oh yeah, this person is the son of that person or they're the whatever, then we're just left with this basic, complete erasure of important people. Like, think how crazy this. Queen Elizabeth was the monarch of your country from the time my grandparents were in preschool all the way up until last year. And now there's going to be children who grow up who have never heard her name. You don't think that's sad? It's coming. I told you, man, the biggest erasure I ever saw was with Ted Kennedy. Like, Magumi, that man was probably one, like, he was unquestionably one of the most important American politicians between like the late 60s all the way up until he died in 2009. I mean, the media was so obsessed with him. They one time like stalked him and took pictures of him having intercourse with some woman on a boat. But you know what I'm saying? Like all that obsession with this man when he was alive. And then 10 plus years after he died, I have kids who go, "Who's Sandra Kennedy? Who's that?" I'm telling you, it's sad, man. It really is. Real huge shame. It is because it shows you that you can be one of the most important people when you're alive, but if you die and you're not like a current thing anymore, and you have a lot of these like, what's the way of putting it? You don't have a group that like properly conveys your remembrance. You just get completely forgotten. Damn near. No, it won't be preserved. Even if like, think how screwed up this is. This isn't some random guy I'm talking about. This is someone who has multiple books written about him. Various interviews and speeches that he gave are still online and received millions of votes when he ran for office. And you can find people today just completely unfamiliar with him. And people that were the same age as me when that happened, or slightly younger, slightly older, which means that, it's not like they have been not an existent force since he died. No, they were around. They just didn't care. Because, like I said, the mundane existence creates that cycle. You said your memory won't be preserved. It won't, because these people are only interested in, I guess I have to go to my little crappy job and make, this much an hour. All right, I just got back from my crappy job. Time to go to sleep. All right, I guess I'll go back to my crappy job. Hey, here's a mass shooting. No, man, I only care about my crappy job. Okay, finish that, go back to sleep. Hey, did you hear that this person just died? Oh, no, I only care about my crappy job. All right, go back to my. That's their whole life. Literally, their entire life is doing what is needed to survive, right? Stuff in their stomach, going to some job they hate, and that's it. That's why they don't care about any historical events. That's why they don't care about any historical figures. Nothing matters to them besides the little itty bitty minute stuff they need to get by. Because even the things they feign interest in, like I had a guy, Megumi, I made a mistake. I played. Remember, I told you there's the guy that like every time they watch something, they say this is the best, that's the best, etc., etc. Um, I had a guy. He said that this show I was watching was the third one of the top 3 Nicktoons. I was like, oh my, because I was already like, no, please, man, you don't even remember this show. Don't even try singing that song. He's like, no, the best Nicktoon was Invader Zim, and I didn't respond to him, but I was like, dude, you've never once brought up this show. Like, how is it that you claim this is the best Nick? Which I don't even take that seriously because I don't believe for a second that he's either seen all Nicktoons. That's a lot of cartoons, or if he has seen all of them, it's been like since he was a kid. So I don't even take that part seriously. But it's like you apparently hold this show in such high regard that you never mention it. You never talk about rewatching it. You never like nothing. It's completely. I'd never even thought of this show around him because he never brings it up. Remember, I told you that like I stopped getting mad about the Amazing Spider-Man is the best Spider-Man because remember we talked about how like that doesn't mean anything since he hasn't seen the Raimi films since they came out, so he has like barely any memory of them because he was a little kid when they were released. So that's why like I just see it as like a guy who he can't just this is just what he does. Like he likes something, so it's the best. That's his pattern of speaking. He's the kind of person that would say, well, I told you, he said Rogue One was the best Star Wars movie. I said, dude, I don't take that seriously because one, you haven't seen any of the original 6 since you were a kid, and the new ones aren't even considered that good anyway. So that's like being great on the bell curve. How can you not see the rain? Because that's what these people do. Like you remember I told you that he admitted he doesn't rewatch things. So he saw it maybe one time when he was a kid, and then that was it. Which is all well and good, but if you're going to go around talking about this is the best one, that's the best one, because you know when you hear the best, you're thinking the person at least remembers the other ones enough, you know, to like make a claim like that, right? Like I don't rewatch TASM and TASM 2 every day, but I still remember the, basic story, the breakdown, etc. of events. So if I say I don't like them as much as these other ones, I can cite your reasons why. This guy literally doesn't remember the Raimi films, all except maybe who the villains were, and that's about it. So I said, like, don't even take it seriously because it's not anything. It's just a place of ignorance. That remember, he said Batman Beyond was better than regular Batman. It took one question to kill his whole belief. I asked him, "What is Batman Beyond's real name?" I said exactly. I mean, your claim means nothing because you can't remember anything you're talking about. You're attracted to that show for a theme song and a costume, and that's it. Again, like just the most minute, frivolous, lack of nuance crap I've ever seen. Megumi is the best YouTube commentator. Have I read all the other YouTube commentators? Nope, but he's the best one. Dude, I hate that so much. It's the most obnoxious, like, whatever. What's another example of something like that? Toy Story 4 was the best Toy Story. When's the last time you saw 1, 2, and 3? When they came out. It's like, yeah, so you haven't seen the third one since 2010? You probably should rewatch it. Maybe you can, jog your memory, and then when you make a claim like this, you can actually know what you're talking about. But yeah, a lot of people do that. I've noticed. Oh, and if it's not that, well, the power levels in Dragon Ball, dude, I don't even take them seriously with that trash. Like all those stupid power level videos. Then Super came out, and they if you watch that show, they threw that out the window. They have characters get stronger out of the complete clear blue sky. And they did it because they knew that if they kept everyone weak, is like one of the things GT's actually really good at is power levels as far as like it like basically Goku's stronger than everybody else, and the villains they peak up whatever, but like you get what I'm saying of how you can watch that show and feel like you have a basic idea of everyone's strength remaining mostly the same throughout it, where it's just Goku going up and up and up, and then Vegeta toward the end like also goes up, and everybody else is kind of like beneath them. Um, but it's like at least with that show, it was like some consistency. Super is all over the place, man. I tell you, they want to sell those toys so badly. They're like, make Piccolo stronger. Like I said, I'm not even a big fan of that iteration of the series, but I did really like Superhero, the movie, just because it was so nice to get something Dragon Ball related that wasn't Goku and Vegeta for the 900th time. Or, excuse me, 9,000th time to make a good reference. They finally did something different. It just took them what 6 years of nonstop content to pivot gears. God, I'm telling you, man. I really did feel like, is every arc of this series going to be the exact same thing over and over again? Is there like no creativity whatsoever? Just I wasn't kidding when I said every arc of Super was either a tournament or there's like some new antagonist that only Goku and Vegeta can fight for some reason. It's just that's why I stopped reading the manga during that second to last arc they had. Right now they're retelling the movie, but I just tuned out for the other arc. I was like, it's literally the same thing over and over. Creativity be damned. I tell you, my favorite part is when Super was airing, they had a baseball episode that kind of like focused on it. It was a little fun episode, right? They were playing baseball together. Everybody's got all their powers, which is something I thought was kind of creative. And I asked this guy um, if he had seen that episode, and he said, no, that was filler." And I was like, "What?" Because you know that Super does not have like what the original Dragon Ball had, which is a manga that like is ahead of it, so it tries to stay behind to see what the manga does. So that's when I realized for a lot of these fans, anything that's not punch punch kick kick is just skippable crap that they can just not care about. That's why so many of them are turned off to the original Dragon Ball, because even something as fun, adventurous as looking for these 7 orbs that can grant any wish is like too much for them, even though it's only 13 episodes, just too much. I bring this up because my younger sibling went to a convention yesterday and called me to tell me about his experience, and him and his friends were debating which anime character is strongest. DB Super was mentioned, of course. Dude, I don't like. I always remember those discussions. Who's stronger, Goku or Superman? Like, I don't care. Anytime a fan likes one over the other, they're gonna make them stronger. I really don't like people like that. Everything needs to always have fighting in it to be engaged in them. And it's really sad too, because they always say, "Oh, you're so negative towards Super." I praise the episode. I say I like it when they do little, they call it slice of life type stuff. Like there's an episode of GT where it's between the baby and Super 17 stuff, where it's like a tournament, and um Oob is like only willing to let Hercule win because Boo's inside of him and is kind of like manipulating events to it was a nice break of pace from possessions and killings and all the rest of that stuff. But if you were to watch that as one of these people, that's filler. It's like, no, it's not filler. GT doesn't have a manga. And even though Super has one, I mean, they skip over stuff all the time. By that definition, the whole Golden Frieza arc was filler. I'm telling you, man, you try to throw a bone to a show you don't really like, and they just throw it right back. Like I swear, people just they don't even care. They just say anything. By the way, I was also going to mention that one of my favorite plot twists. Well, I guess I'll frame it this way. Imagine Megumi that you find out that in the future there's like an alternate version of you. We're gonna call him Megumi America, who's like terrorizing the world or whatever. Although you're not sure if he's actually you or not because you don't know what happened. So he comes back to somebody comes back to tell you about Megumi America, and you go to investigate like how did this guy come about, what the deal is with him, and you go and you fight some other person. We're gonna call them, I don't know, teriyaki sauce. So you and teriyaki sauce fight, and you beat teriyaki sauce, and then you find out later on that Megumi White is teriyaki sauce who like stole your body or stole your appearance or whatever to like frame you. And you say, well, wait a second. And you find out that teriyaki sauce only did this after being like so disgusted by the fact you were able to beat him in a fair fight or beat him in a fight at all. And you go and you say, wait a second. I only went to go see teriyaki sauce to figure out who Megumi America was. So how could I have created Megumi America by going to meet teriyaki sauce when I only went to see teriyaki sauce because Megumi America appeared? So he create himself? Dude, Super literally has a plot twist like that. It is so bad. It was like a complete just my mind was so confused. Like, I don't know what that was. By the way, Megumi, your career has dried up and you're a failed actor. But of course you're not too dried up and failed for us to make a whole thread about you. Well, I still haven't been bothered to consider watch Super outside of Tournament of Power, which seemed like a joke. Look, I like the Tournament of Power in the not the manga version. Manga version is a joke. It's a little condensed, crappy, alteration where they were just skipping through it to get to their that stupid goat. But I like the Tournament of Power because it's really the only time in the whole show that they even bother to give most of the fighters anything to do. And while there are some characters who don't really get anything, like Tien, for example, I still it's the one arc of Super I actually would go back and watch. I do like it. Also, it made 17 extremely popular, which I never thought I would actually be saying about a character that was in like what a third of an arc, and then just for like what 5 episodes of GT, and then that was it. And I'm not even kidding, man. That like I was shocked of all the characters. Like I'm not saying to be funny. He is the only character in the entire series that show did anything to improve at all. Like any out of any of the pre-existing ones, he's the only one because before that show came out, nobody cared about 17. He was the guy that Piccolo fought one time, who then came back in GT with this like fusion in some really short, tiny arc, and that was his whole role. I'm not even kidding. 17 was literally the most like non-important android out of any of them except for 19. Like he's literally just there to be kind of like the like supposed leader of the three when they're going and looking for Goku, and then after that he just fizzles out. It's actually been discussed before, but Toriyama's original plan was for Cell to not even transform, and then after his editor was like, "Oh, he's ugly, give him another form." He wanted to keep Cell in his second form for a while, and his editor told him to like speed it up. So that's what I'm saying. Of like even Toriyama was like, "Yeah, 18 and 16, I'd rather just have the two of them for a bit." Until he got hastened by the editor. He's like, "Hey, come on." Oh dear, I remember how bad they did Piccolo in GT. Well, he doesn't really fare. I'd say he fares better in Super as far as like not in the two retellings because that's just the extended version movie. Um, but oh, by the way, one of my favorite scenes in GT is from the episode where the plant, like where Piccolo sacrificed himself for the Earth, and he gives this monologue to Gohan about, you've shown me that strength doesn't always come through. And it's funny because since they can't play footage of Z for some reason, and Piccolo's only been in one episode for like one scene up until now, they have to play the clip of possessed baby Gohan blasting. So like the monologue is good, but it's like overlaid on top of footage of him getting shot away by the person that he calls his friend while he's possessed by this parasite from another. Like it's just like it's one of those things where honestly, if they just drew a picture of him with like Gohan when he was younger, that would have been fine enough. But like because they can only play this clip because they can't use footage from Z, and the only episode Piccolo was in for like one scene, they have to play him getting shot. That's like the most unintentionally funny thing of that whole show because it's the voice acting is good, whatever, but like that visual just killed it for me. I thought it was funny. Man, Piccolo could have been so good in the baby arc. Like he's one of the few characters that doesn't get possessed, and they have him get shot and then vanish and then die. That's his whole role. I was saying in Super he fares better because even though they don't use him as much as I would like. He gets a fight during the Universe 6 tournament, even though he gets cheated out of it. And he does get a few fights during the Tournament of Power. But I really like the new movie Superhero. That film is, I would say he's the main character of that film. He certainly has more to do in it than Gohan. We see his house, we see him using the phone. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Like, if you want to watch Super, then you could just go and watch that movie. That's the only new Dragon Ball thing I'd recommend to you. It is so nice to see them use a popular character that they have misused and underused for God knows how long, ever since Z ended. Like it was cathartic, man. Seriously, that film, Goku and Vegeta have, I think, 2 or 3 minutes of screen time in the whole thing. Like that movie is really just about Piccolo and Gohan. It's marketed more as it being about Gohan, but Piccolo has more screen time. So like there's like Gohan gets more involved after the first act. So I would say it's mostly about Piccolo. Like I was so excited for that film that I went to see it in theaters. I didn't even go to see Broly in theaters because I was like, oh, more Goku and Vegeta, more Saiyans, yay! But man, when that poster came out and those trailers came out, I'll put it this way: out of any of the movies they've done since the revival, so you had Battle of Gods, Resurrection F, again Broly, and then Superhero. Superhero is the one I like the most, without a shadow of a doubt. It's the most different, the most unique, the most like down to earth. I appreciate it. So, like I said, that if there's one thing from Super you watch, that's the part the one I'd recommend. That film felt like it was tailor-made to me. It was like, "Hey, look, we know you've been sitting through this crappy revival for 8 years," or I guess technically, 10 years if you wanna count Battle of Gods in there too. It's like, "We know you've been sitting through this Goku and Vegeta love fest for the last, decade, but here's a nod." God, I'll take all of Super as a thing that I'm okay with existing just for that movie. Like, I love that movie more than I hate the arcs of the show. Certainly worth looking into. I haven't seen a lot of DB movies in general. Well, you know what it is, back during the, like, run of the manga, the films were kind of just little, like, what if stories, right? Little hour-long what ifs. Basically like a really high budget episode. Uh, Other than maybe the Trunk special, that was probably the most important one because it actually does have to do with the main story. It's a prequel to the show. But with this film, I really felt like they tried. They wanted to do something different, and I think they succeeded. The weakest part of it is probably the villains, but even then, man, I just like the character stuff with Piccolo and Gohan too much to be upset over it. No, dude, my favorite thing about just Z was watching the History of Trunks special, and then all of the Cell saga, and then when Trunks comes back and kills the end, it's so cathartic, man. Like seeing how they just beat up on him and he couldn't do anything to him, and then when he's got his time chamber year of training, just wails on. They can't do it. It felt so good. You know what I mean? Like just having like the fact that he lived in this timeline where for his whole life those two androids are just destroying everything. He was powerless, and then he goes back, gets powered up. They can't do anything to him. Like they're now the powerless ones. Oh man, I don't usually like smile that big when I watch something, but it felt nice. Like, I don't think any anime character or manga character had a more, like, perfect ending to their story that got ruined by a stupid revival. Because he went through hell and he did everything right, and he even got killed, and then came back and saved his time and avenged all of his fallen friends or the different, heroes from before. I remember this one guy, he actually rewrote the, Cell Saga to where instead of, where it was where, Krillin survived Trunks' timeline, and he went back with him to the original timeline, I guess the main timeline of the show, and like it was him like trying to warn his self, like his present version, don't get attached to 18. She doesn't, and like I thought it was interesting because it creates conflict where it makes total sense for him to believe the version from his timeline is this murderous thing, and then the one in the present is like that adds to his moral dilemma. I mean, it's always interesting to see people change up stories a little bit, and they can just enrich it so much. But I don't usually give movie or show endorsements. So when I speak highly of superhero, I'm not giving you any flippant talk. It is without question my favorite thing to come out of the modern Dragon Ball stuff. They've only excited me maybe like 2 times in all the years of them being back. Actually, 3 times. The first time I got excited, let me read what you wrote. But stuff like that is pretty fascinating. That creates more story and coverage to characters. Yeah, because you're talking about a version of Krillin from the future timeline who's dealt with the evil androids, going back and telling his present version, "Hey, stay away from her. I know you're going to think she's pretty, whatever, but it will not end well for you." And then the present version has like that mindset going in, and it slowly gets shifted by the way that she acts towards him. So he kind of that's where like the moral dilemma comes. I was saying the 3 times that they've excited me were when the Universe 6 arc poster came out. That Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, and Buu on the cover. I was like, oh, cool. They're going to give Buu and Piccolo some fights. I can't wait. And then Buu went to sleep during the test, and Piccolo got one fight, got cheated, and then just sat out the rest of it. I was like, oh, this is lame, whatever. And then the second time was when the Goku Black arc started, or I guess the Future Trunks arc, whichever way you want to refer to it. That started off really interesting. Like I'd still say the first half of that arc I really like. But then the plot reveals, the progression of it got goofy. Um, like the manga version was better, but it really disappointed me. I thought we were going to get this big, huge, amazing villain, and he starts off really good, but it just evolves into trash. So then after 2 disappointments, I'm not excited for Tournament of Power at all, and ended up being better than I thought it was, or at least to me anyway. I thought it was better than I thought it was than I thought it would be. And then I'm like, I'm not excited for the movies either. But then when Superheroes trailer comes, I'm like, oh man, we're gonna actually not get another Goku and Vegeta story. Sign me up. So there's been 3 times they excited me. Technically 4 if you want to count the Moro stuff, because I did get excited when they showed. There are parts of that arc I really like. Boo beating up the goat, and then Piccolo beating up the little minions on their when they come to Earth. So there are little pieces that I enjoy, but the overall arc was just another letdown. A very bland, boring villain, and the few things they could have done to make it interesting, they really just ducked their tail from. I just think it's sad, man. Like they have so many chances to just make stuff different or unique, and they pass it. Oh, and also Megumi, get ready for Frieza the show, because for some reason we just can't get rid of him. He just has to keep coming back every other arc. Like first they bring him back for that stupid movie with like the worst final form I've ever seen. It's just they just change the colors on it because now all the new forms are lazy now. Um, then you have what the Universe 6 term. He's not in that, and he's not in the Future Trunks arc. But then he's in the Tournament of Power. He's actually that's probably he's one of the better parts of that arc. I said, okay, that's a nice little 3 arc thing, right? Frieza Saga, the Golden Frieza, and then Tournament of Power, whatever. Then they put him in the Broly movie, and then now in the not the superhero, but like the arc before that in the manga, he showed up at the end of that with another new form. So this character, let's count it. He's in the Frieza saga. Let me see. This also reminds me where you plan to do a video on Cheech. I was interested in her as a character, but she just gets overlooked as just the housewife for Goku. Honestly, I'd rather make a video about 18 because the more I think about her, I get like more angrier. Like just her role in the story is really awful compared to like how much potential she had. Like it just total waste. But just to recap, Frieza, main villain of the Frieza saga, shows up at the start of Cell, and then not counting fillers or whatever. Main villain of the Resurrection F movie / arc, whatever. Then he's in the Tournament of Power as one of their teammates. which I like him there, so I whatever. But then he's in the Broly movie. Then he's in the little last part of that granola arc or saga or whatever. So that's 6 arcs with this character. And then it's even worse when you count that he's also in Fusion Reborn. He's in GT. He's in the Buu Saga filler. God, I'm sick of him, man. Like, they'll never bring back Cell, but they'll use Frieza literally 10 times. I'm done. I'm done. Well, like I said, I didn't even mind that he came back for Resurrection F, but then it's like you bring him back for the tournament, okay? Because now the arc has meaning because he's got this power up, whatever. It makes more sense, I guess, than Cell, even though Cell would make more sense from a character standpoint. But then you bring him back for the Broly movie, and like, dude, the Broly movie doesn't even have any of the like actual heroes in there besides the Saiyans and Piccolo. So it's like they didn't even have Gohan in there. That's how that's how like backwards that decision was. But then like you also stick him in this other arc at the end, and in that arc, that last one they completed, he gets a new form and he punches I think both Goku and Vegeta. So we know he's going to come back for something else. I'm tired of him. I really am sick of him. Now on the Dragon Ball Wiki, they're calling him the main antagonist of the series. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? You know, Dragon Ball had no series-wide antagonist. There was a villain that showed up for an arc, and they lose, and then you move on to the next person. I'm gonna make a show where there's this villain for like the first or second season. Actually, I shouldn't even make that comparison because the Frieza saga really is like after a whole bunch of other stuff. It's like halfway through or whatever. But anyways, have a villain. They show up in the first season. They died in the first season, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. Then they come back to life. Several seasons later, and then you think they're gone, and then like 2 more, 3 more seasons go, and then they're back, and they just decide to stay alive. Like, just can't get rid of this bastard. Man, that was awful. I'm really sick of him now. Like if we never saw him again, we're of course going to have to because they're trying to wrap that story up. But I've never been more sick of a villain than him. It's interesting. But then again, I can't think of any other series where they brought a villain back this many times after they were like the main threat or whatever. Like I guess maybe if we're talking about American comics, I guess you could like make a comparison with Norman Osborn because he was one of Spider-Man's arch enemies. Then he died, and then he was dead in real life for over 20 years. And they brought him back during the Clone Saga and started having him just mess with everybody. But even then, it's like at least that there was like a big reprisal, and he's not. You don't see him like for a whole arc. He's just shows up every now and again. I don't know. I think that's probably the best example I can think of. But isn't that the main problem with the series in general? The lack of use with the cast. Yeah, there are so many characters they don't get used. Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things that's one of my grievances with Superhero, which is that the main villains of that movie are the Red Ribbon Army, and there's 2 Red Ribbon androids that are around, thriving, living, whatever. And one of them you don't use at all, and the other one you barely use. Like you have the active Red Ribbon Army, and you don't even like have 18 comment on it, get more involved in the story. She's their creation. I'm telling you, man, I could end up doing a whole like hour plus video about 18 and just the waste. It was if you just we could go through every arc of this series and just GT included and be like, could have been used in that, could have been used in this, could have been used in that. Just a waste, man. Dude, the worst part is that in the suit, the arc that gives her the most attention is the shortest. So like she basically gets two extended big scenes in the arc of like 5 episodes. Like the scene where 17 tries to get her to come with him and kills Krillin, which that I hate that more than anything else in that whole show. But then after they're like knocked out, right? She's not in the arc for the whole Goku and Super 17, fight until all the way at the end where she like stands in place. And it's like those are impactful scenes, but I wish she had a bigger role in the story. Because even with the dragons, like one of them is a direct cause of the wish that was made at the end of the I'm forgetting which one, but they could have had her fight that one, whichever one it was. I know it wasn't Nova, the best dragon, but let me shut up about that. Dude, remember at the start of the Boo saga, she is stronger than every single character who isn't a Saiyan or Piccolo. Like I'm not like just consider the fact that when the Boo saga starts, because we know that Goten and Trunks can't, they're weaker than her because they fight her together and still like are not able to just outright defeat her. Um, she's stronger than every living character on Earth who is not Gohan, Vegeta, and maybe Piccolo. Again, we don't even know for sure like what the scaling is with that, but it's like there's only maybe a handful of characters stronger than her, and she doesn't get to fight any of Babidi's minions. She doesn't get to fight any of the forms of Boo. I mean, it drives me nuts. Like such a unique character in in terms of like the makeup of the series and just nothing. Oh, she's stronger than Goten because she fights him and Trunks when they're Mighty Mask during the tournament and they can't beat her. Even when they go Super Saiyan. It's only when they turn the Gotenks that they're established to be more powerful or whatever. But yeah, when that arc starts, of any of the living characters on Earth, she's only confirmed to be weaker than two of them. And they don't give her a single thing to do. Like it's so sad, man. Dude, I'm just imagining like all like how different that arc could have been. Like if we had picked like I already said the Boo Saga is the weakest arc of the manga for me. Like I think it's a really it's like a rushed but also very long conclusion to this 11-year story that doesn't really, you know, it doesn't take itself too seriously, so that's a plus, but it has a lot of seats for stuff that just doesn't go anywhere, like all these fusions and Super Saiyan 3 or whatever. But it's like so weird to me how they have all these different ideas that they do nothing with. Like you have Deborah, king of the demon realm, and no interactions with Piccolo other than spitting on him. No fight, and then you get rid of him as soon as Boo shows up. And then it's like you make an even more evil version of Boo, and you don't have him fight the android that was even more evil in her original timeline. Like you just don't even try to like do any kind of narrative thing there. Okay. I just think it's so crazy how they like there was so much they could have used. They kill Krillin again, and they don't even try to do like a thing of like now his, he avenged her when she was absorbed by Cell. So now she will avenge him when he's no longer here. Just a waste, man. Like And again, she's so strong compared to everyone else, and they don't do anything with it. Man. Tell you the Boo Sagas when they went all Saiyans, that was where they just said if you don't if you can't turn your hair gold, you might as well not even exist. Like I said, for a final arc, I just think it leaves a lot to be desired. Like 500 chapters into this story, the final battle is Goku and some character who only showed up halfway through the story, or at like a third of the way through there, fighting this villain that's only been around for the last 10 or so chapters on a tiny planet with barely anybody on it, and sticking their hands up in the air to use an attack that already failed every other time it was used. I'm telling you, at that point, he didn't care anymore. He was like, let me just wrap this up. That's why he lets Boo kill everybody, blow up the planet. He's just like, whatever. That's why I said it's hard to defend a lot of this stuff. It really is. Because even as a fan, you're like, man, they could have done something with this. You know, they just don't care, I guess. Just whatever. And of course, you know, a lot of fans will eat that stuff up. They're like, "Oh, this has transformations. I like it." But like I said, there's a lot of pieces where if you just rewrite it, I think it's much better than what it is. It's like, hey, let's have Vegeta blow himself up and accomplish literally nothing except removing himself from a third of the story, and then bring him back toward the end. That's the part that kills me. We've never gotten like out of all these arcs where Vegeta's the supposed deuteragonist or whatever the stupid tournament he uses. We've never received a single arc where it's just him and Trunks. Like they have him in the present version. Anytime they have significant screen time, they're almost always away from each other. Like in GT, they're in that first episode, and then Trunks is in space with Goku. And then by the time we see Trunks and Vegeta interact again, it's after Vegeta's already been possessed. And then after that, Trunks is like barely in the story anymore, which is the craziest thing to me. That like he stops being the main character after the first arc, and just is like relegated to being in the background and doing whatever. You know what it is? They realize that like that they put him in the main cast because of future Trunks, and he's just the poor man's version of his alternate version. Since you're very familiar with Akira Toriyama's drawings, do you know about a series called Dragon Quest? Oh yeah, I remember they had a DS game. It's got the boy with that spiky hair, and I think he has a headband and some shorts. I remember. Somebody's over there being weird. Speaking of shorts, I'm telling you, GT Trunks has one of the worst designs I've ever seen for any anime or manga protagonist ever. Like they give him a bandana like almost to purposely make him look like 17 because it's on top of a black shirt. They have a different color for it, but still, I think some gloves and then like the the shorts and those long socks. Man, I remember this one guy said it looked like he was going to the golf course. That looks like something they would wear when they're like putting. All he's missing is the classic cap, and he'd be ready. Like GT Trunks, his design, I hate it. It's one of my least favorite out of any show. That design is horrible. Trunks and GT, where he's got the blue head, the blue bandana around him, and then the gloves and the shorts. That thing was awful. Like I almost never critique any of the other designs, and even though there are ones I don't like that much, but that is the worst one out of all of them. No, listen, because like Future Trunks' design was cool. He had the black tank top with the pants that matched and the kind of like boot shoes or whatever, right? And then the jacket, and the sword. Like you went from that to, I mean, it's not even close. So if you like that design, you can have it. There's a reason why out of all the American games, they never did GT Trunks until Xuniverse. They would just use Future Trunks and give him the lines for GT Trunks because they know that that version of that character, especially that design, is not well liked. So you can have him. I don't even like Goten is whatever, but at least I'll take his design. Like his hair is weird. They have it like spiked up in the front or whatever. It kind of reminds me of well, I'm not gonna say that, but at least they gave him some, little white shirts, some purple pants, whatever. I'm serious. GT Trunks wasn't a playable character in any Dragon Ball game until Xuniverse because they knew that he's barely a character, and they can just give his lines to Future Trunks since they have the same voice actor. There's plenty of games where they put GT Goku, Pan, and then Future Trunks with the armor or whatever together, and that's like the representative of GT Trunks. So I said you can have him. You can enjoy him in his little goofy shorts and his prominence in 1/3 of that show and have fun. Well, you can like a show and still admit aspects of it that are not good. Like I would say in a heartbeat, I love the original Dragon Ball. And Z as well, but it's like I'm not going to pretend that the Boo saga was this amazing finale, this great terrific completely satisfying like I completely understand where at the end of that people wanted more because of all the stuff that arc either didn't pay off, didn't finish, set up. Dude, it's so weird how the Boo saga is supposed to be the ending, and there's so much stuff it introduces. You get fusions, Super Saiyan 3, the Supreme Kai. I mean, for an arc that's supposed to be the end, it really does feel like I don't want to say a new beginning or anything, but it doesn't feel like a conclusion. There's so much stuff that's just created, and like I get it's on a grander scale. There's lore, whatever, but it because that stuff has now been expanded in other things that have come afterward. It's harder to feel like, oh yeah, this is the end. Yeah, this was really meant to just be the grand finale, and nothing was going to come after this. And it's like Toriyama knew he was like, I know you guys want some more. I'll give you a little stuff you can sprinkle in there. I'm never gonna sit here and pretend that the stuff I like is perfect. I always critique. Do you think the ending was okay? The actual ending of like Goku flying off with Oob is fine, but the final battle of the arc I think is terrible from the standpoint of this is the last battle in the entire series, and you're not going to involve Goku's son who for a big part of this story was literally involved in every final fight, or Krillin, who you might not know this, Megumi, but Krillin is the most recurring character in the entire original manga besides Goku. There's no character who appears in more chapters than him besides the supposed main character. You're not going to involve Piccolo, who had this like really big redemption arc. You're going to just have Goku and a character who showed up a third of the way through the story on a desolate planet fighting the now third version of Boo, who's only been around for less than like 20 chapters, and using an attack that has already failed in the instances where it was used in the past. People talking about, oh, I like the Spirit Bomb because everybody gets to. It's like, dude, come on, that was in no way satisfying. It's a panel where Gohan has his hand out. He did so much, yay! Just lame. Like I said, I would have preferred if they had gone through what that one guy did, where he had the alternate version of they used the Dragon Balls to wish everyone back, and then they wish, because Goku's like tired or whatever, they wish the Z fighters to come to Earth, or to come to that not Earth, to the other planet, and it's Gohan, Piccolo, Krillin, 18, 17, Tien, Yamcha, Goten, Trunks, Shiatsu, like they all teleport over there and like fight Boo together and like defeat him with this giant group attack, while Goku just kind of rests, because it's supposed to be the fact that like all of these people he has improved the life of, or trained or made better, are basically giving him like a break, like after all he's been through. That would have been really cathartic. So yeah, the ending, the actual ending itself is yeah, it's okay, but the final battle could have been so much better. Like from a thematic standpoint, I think there was so many options they could have gone in that were preferable to what we ended up getting. I know you're upset with me. I know you're going to go to the Kensenshu forum and say something mean about me. I can already read the message. I can already see you typing. He has 3 buttons undone. How brazen! And the rest of them are left open for the cleavage window. A convenient necklace that also hangs down right in the middle. I can already picture you just hating on me. Yeah, I agree with you absolutely. Ever since I first saw it at a young age, you don't think it's weird that they have a million ways they can kill Boo, and they just don't use any of them? It's like you have 3 wishes with the Dragon Balls, or multiple wishes anyway. You can use those to either bring Gohan there and have him finish Boo off, or bring him and Gotenks, or just bring Goten. Like they really, Toriyama was like, Goku will kill him. He was dead set on it. Haha, lol, that still is just insane. Well, I tell you that there's something wrong with people online. They all feel like they're better than everybody else. They all think they get a lot of confidence when they type stuff. It's interesting. Like not enough confidence to show their face, but to come on here and like talk about the way that somebody else looks. Like I've never seen another person. I'm not even trying to be funny when I say this. I've literally never seen anyone else have their outfit analyzed that much who's not like when you go to an event like that where it's just people hanging out there having a good time, and then someone posts a picture of it because they like that you pose with them, and 2 other people have the nerve to like start talking about how your career has dried up and that's why your shirt has buttons undone. Like, Jesus Christ, you have to like you have to truly despise somebody, and also be like the most over analytical jerk in the world to put so much focus on this particular aspect of something. Like, oh my god, every time I read them, I'm just like, they really did this. And it's like they wrote this and they thought they were better than her. She's obviously had some type of plastic surgery or other type of surgery, and she is just looking for attention. Like, well, you're giving it to her. If I never go on that site again, it'll be too soon. They're bad. And again, it's like the lack of self-awareness. Like, this person is so irrelevant, they don't matter, they're meaningless, they're nothing, right? But here we are with hundreds of comments about them in a thread with their name in the title. Totally not irregular. Totally not something we only do to notable people. This is why I never understood the idea of hate watching. But it goes beyond that, man, because it's like they're like, at least when people hate watch a video, you can say maybe they get some entertainment out of it. These people watch what this lady posts online, and they watch when somebody takes a picture with her to write nasty comments about, like, it's literally like hate living. Like, it's not even some kind of content associated with it. It's, we're going to, anytime we get like an update on you, just trash you. You are bad. God, man. You're you're irrelevant. You don't matter. That's why we have a whole section about you, because you're so unimportant. We do this with everybody, even though we actually don't. I said we have a lot in common. I'm gonna go up to her at the next convention and be like, I see that people were talking poorly of you online and overanalyzing your attire and pretending to be you as well. You and I are not so different. Oh, I should use this the whole line. You're an amazing creature. You and I are not so different. Dude, it's so creepy, man. Like, because you know what it is when you think of it from her perspective or my perspective, like, you turn on the camera, you're talking about whatever, you know. Maybe you put on a coat because it's cold. Maybe you put on something just because you like to, cover up a little bit, whatever. But it's like, for someone to sit there and analyze, like, they skip over what you're talking about, what the main subject is, but just like the over analyzation of such a minute detail, I find to be insane. They said they might bring him back again for to play Goblin in Secret Wars. I hope so. Not using him again at this point would be a really stupid decision. He was one of the most well liked elements of No Way Home. So I hope if we do get our big villain crossover, he'll have some role in that. Like, if they don't bring him back for at least one more movie, they're complete idiots. And you can quote me on that. If they don't bring Defoe back as Green Goblin for at least one more movie, they have lost their minds. But it wouldn't be the first time a studio did something stupid. I mean, hey, let's not forget, we saw a Terminator movie where it's a sequel to T2, and the first scene is John getting executed, basically telling you the whole second movie didn't even matter now. Like, it's crazy. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. Because you know what it is? It's like whenever you have a movie that's predicated on the survival of a character and then you kill that character off, it makes the whole previous movie irrelevant. I actually did see it when I was a kid. It was the first one I didn't see until like years later because it didn't play on any TVs and I didn't go on any like movie sites or whatever. So, but even when I first saw it as a kid, I was still too late because it came out before I was born. So like either way, I was just screwed. You only just seen Terminator 2. Yikes, that's pretty late. Dude, imagine so like Robert Caro has been writing the Johnson series since I believe 82. Imagine if I go up to him and I say, "Hey, you're working on your final volume. Last one came out in 2012. He's like still working on the fifth one." I'm like, "I just started reading these. I really appreciate your, you know, way of writing and the information." He's like, "Wait a second. I started writing these in 1982, and you just started reading them? Yikes, that's pretty late." Oh, that guy was a nut. Was just like nuts. I'm telling you, man. No person of any accolade who's released a work would ever tell you that there's a time limit on how long you are like you it should be before you read some that or watch some that they were in or wrote or whatever. Yeah, it's too comical. Now, like I don't know if you ever saw Terminator Dark Fate, but man, the one thing I'll praise about that movie is that opening scene's CGI is excellent. I felt like I was watching deleted footage from Terminator 2. That motion capture and that de-aging technology, some of the best I've ever seen. Even if you don't want to see that movie, just like you could just look up screenshots of it. That CGI looks great. Like the only CGI I've seen looks that good when it comes to de-aging someone is probably Iron Man in Captain America 3. And that's like around I guess like around the same time. But you get the idea. Like some of this stuff looks really nice. I can't wait for the next Terminator movie. I never got around to watching that when I remember it being released. Well, look, I'm not telling you to watch it because I didn't think it was great or anything. I don't. I still haven't made my mind up about around it. Some people say it's complete trash. I only saw it one time and I kind of was like, eh. So I probably will try to watch it again at some point. But man, that opening CGI, it's beautiful. They made Linda Hamilton look like she stepped back into '91. I mean, it was God. This is we've come so far with the advancements of technology. It's crazy. Even if you don't watch that movie, at least look give them credit for that CGI. No, they really outdid themselves in that particular department. I acknowledge that. Also, be prepared that when you see Dark Fate, I'm going to tell you you're only just now seeing this movie that I think it was what 2019. Yikes, that's pretty late. I'm done with these guys online, man. They all like I think we're at a point now where if you watch something that somebody else watched and you liked it too, but you didn't see it the way they saw it, they have a problem with that. If you watch something but didn't like it as much as somebody else, they have a problem with that. God, it's you just can't win. But yeah, I'll put up some edited video probably driving. Can you see that in hindsight that makes literally no sense? I saw it when it happened. Like you can't designate a time limit on works of fiction. There's always going to be new people being born who are not as familiar with it. Really, though, you can't even do that with pretty much anything besides maybe like if they're like for example, if I bring up, hey, did you hear about that shooting that happened 2 weeks ago? You could say, oh, that's pretty late. Like it's like when you say late, as in it's pretty late to think someone still hasn't heard of that. But as far as is this something that there's like a time limit on, like in around this period, should everyone just have seen that? That's never going to happen because you're always going to have people who didn't exist when this was created. They get to come back to it later because we could easily say whatever came out before their time, who watched the material is late. And there's a whole bunch of iconic and important materials that have been written. Like, dude, by his logic, I'm late to the Constitution. That was written before I was born, before my dad, grandpa, great grandpa. I mean, so it's just it's a really it's just people online being weird. Actual people who've made stuff are not going to get mad that you just read their article from 1982 3 weeks ago, or that you saw this movie that they were in 2005 yesterday. Like they're not going to be mad if you say that you saw their thing, you liked it. They'll say thank you. I've never once interacted with anyone who's made something and told them I just watched this, I just saw this, and then they went, "Yikes, that's pretty late." People who make something usually are just happy that people are still talking about it, still engaging with it, and still enjoying it. Dude, there's a lot of iconic books that were written before I was born, like To Kill a Mockingbird or Huckleberry Finn. That's the damnedest thing, isn't it? The people who made something, they're happy that you saw it, period, and that you liked them in it. Or that, like, if they wrote something, they're happy you read it, that you liked it, whether it was when it came out or 10 or 20 years later, whatever. But the people who have never made anything, have never created anything, have never done anything, are going to tell you that you're late to enjoying this. Man, that's why I said they don't even think, they just say things. Let me just claim this. Let me just allege this. That's why I said this. You just can't win with these people, man. I'm not kidding. When you're online, just expect to be critiqued over anything. It could be over your attire, it could be over your way of pronunciation or your voice or an opinion. I mean, it's anything. The internet is literally the cesspool of no satisfaction whatsoever. So, do we have anything else to say? Because I gotta, run my errands and various other, devious things. Don't worry, you won't see me on any forums talking about people's outfits. And it's crazy because it's like being at the event and seeing how excited people were to just like take pictures and get stuff signed, autographed. It's like nobody was sitting there going, this woman's dress is too short. This woman is showing a piece of her chest. This woman has heels that are too long. This guy has a shirt that I'm sure he's had for 10 years. It looks like this lady has had work done. It looks like this guy is wearing some type of jacket that probably has been worn several times before. Who does that? Any more news about the job stuff currently, or did you already mention it? Yeah, that one place said they hired me, and they're going through some kind of like check or whatever that's going to take a few days. And I filled out all the stuff, so I'm waiting for them to finish. And then the other place I went to on Wednesday, which is for the same company, the lady told me they had 100 people applying for that store. I said, yeah, this is a waste. So one of them, it looks like wants me. The other one, just total waste of time. But I'm cautiously optimistic. Dude, I'm not even kidding. I swear to you, even when I see actors in real life, people who are of some noteworthiness in real life, even people who've just been in stuff, right? I'm more excited by the spectacle of like seeing them than by like to where I wouldn't even think about analyzing anyone's outfit. Like, you remember we were talking about Mark Hamill charging $400 to take a picture with him. If he were charging 40, 30, 20, I'd be excited to drive over to San Francisco or wherever that thing is and, get a photo with him. And I wouldn't care if he was wearing his designer suit or his pajamas. I would just be happy to, be around someone that I like or whatever, like the roles of. So I'm saying that a lot of fans are not like this. They don't in real life sit around going, this person is it never occurred to me. Just wear whatever you want. Hell, they let you wear what you want. It never I didn't have one thought about what that lady had on. I was just happy to see her. Only comment I made about her attire was that she had on these heels and she was still like barely able to come up to my chest, or I guess my shoulder or whatever. Which I did think was funny. But that's literally just like for just the comedy of it, not I don't like this shit. No, I'm not. It's for a totally different reason. I would even point that out. So I hope you enjoy. That's the worst part. A lot of these places want weekend availability. That's obnoxious. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the stream, and I will be back within the next few days. I'm gonna have some stuff I'm gonna probably put up this week. So have a good day.